friends, and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Meaghan.
And I'm Shireen.
And we are middle of August as we're recording this episode because, obviously, we are talking everything rom-com this month, and I think we would have been remiss to talk about rom-coms throughout the month of August and not talk about the latest adaptation of a rom-com that just dropped on Amazon Prime literally yesterday when we're recording this episode. So it's probably like a buzz all over the place right now, but this week we're talking about the adaptation of Red, White, and Royal Blue, which just dropped on Amazon Prime. Woo-hoo. This seemed like the most timely of times to watch the movie and record an episode about it, so we figured we may as well take advantage of the theme at the same time and talk about it this week.
An urge I currently share. What I need is some good old-fashioned damage control.
The White House and the Palace are going to release a joint statement.
You've got to be joking.
You can hate Prince Henry all you want.
My NDA is bigger than yours. I want you to know that. You're wearing lifts. Know that too, sweetheart.
You better act like the sun shines out of his ass and you have a vitamin D deficiency.
Have you thought of what you might say to convince the world that we're actually friends? I love hanging out with this guy. We never have to see each other.
For anybody who's not aware, the movie dropped, yesterday on August 11th when we're recording this episode, on Amazon Prime. The rom-com, I think, portion of like Bookstagram and Book Talk were all aflutter when it was announced that there was a film being made of this, and then obviously when the trailer was released, I don't know, probably like a 5 or 6 weeks back now from when the movie came out. Everybody was going all crazy for it, so we figured that we would take a look at the adaptation today and talk about it. So Red, White, and Royal Blue, like I said, was just released August 11th of 2023, and currently, as of today, is sitting at a score of 7.5 out of 10 on IMDB and 79% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, I guess so. So this is going to be like an interesting one, I think, for us to talk about. This is another one of those instances where one of us has read the book and one of us hasn't. I decided, since the film was coming out, and rom-coms are like such a sort of easy breezy read.
Beautiful cover girl.
I realized it as I was saying it. I figured that I hadn't gotten around to reading the book yet, despite like how like virally popular it was. It dropped in 2019, and it was like one of the biggest releases, I want to say, of that year, particularly in the romance sphere. So I figured that I would actually get around to reading it. It gave me a really good excuse to do so. And I read it a few weeks back, and I really enjoyed it. I get it. Like, it was a really, really fun, really sweet rom-com that addressed like some interesting issues, actually. And so I had figured, why not? So I guess going in, I had a decent amount of hopes going into the adaptation of it. And I guess while I will say that like there were portions of it that were like, pretty cute, and overall like the leads were pretty good and the chemistry between them was good, there were so many parts of the story that were kind of left out or changed in a way that I guess I don't really gel with that well. Like, it's not to say that it was terrible, and I get it. Okay, it's not the book, it's only a movie. You only have 2 hours to tell the story, so obviously you're going to focus a lot more on sort of the main plot points. But there's so much interesting, I guess, conflict that's woven into the book that was really, really cut down quite a lot, sometimes because of missing characters and sometimes just because of missing like plot points entirely, that I'm like,
Yeah, you were disappointed about that, weren't you? And it, based on what you were saying while we were watching it, it kind of sounds like they left out a lot of the strong, like, female characters.
Yeah, they really did,
Yeah.
I will say. So, okay, to give anyone an overview who doesn't really know anything about the book or about the movie, although you should probably, go read it.
Just go watch
the movie if you want to, yeah. Red, White, and Royal Blue basically tells a fictional romantic tale between the son of the President of the United States, named Alex Claremont, and the fictional Prince of England named Henry. So it's supposed to take place over about a year period or so from kind of like the start of their crossing over from enemies territory into the lovers territory is basically what it is. It does have an enemies to lovers element to it a bit more.
Are they really enemies?
More in the book.
I mean, based on I was going to say, in the movie, they're not really enemies. They're just kind of like, You annoy me. I love you now.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to. I think it's supposed to give you that impression, basically. But yeah, basically everything they kick everything off in the film at Prince Philip's wedding. So Philip is Henry's older brother. He's getting married, and so they kind of kick everything off there. You learn that Alex and Henry had previously, they've met a few times at different political events over the years, but they don't like each other very much. They don't seem to get along very well. They kind of just ignore each other, and that's pretty much all there is to it. And Alex seems to have a lot of resentment towards Henry, which you're not really sure why of at first, but then you realize he's kind of snubbed him at events over the years, and Alex has taken that kind of hard. So
yeah, and again, from a movie standpoint, it's just funny because Alex has this whole attitude of Henry's snobby and he should have been there for me, and I'm this working class hero, and you're just kind of you live in the White House.
Yeah, you're not doing, and they do at least they actually address it a little bit, where his dad at one point is oh
yeah, he's you live in the White House. So I was glad that they addressed that, because he really does have a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, he does. He has it's a little much. Anyway. Yeah. So they get into a little bit of a back and forth at the wedding, which of course leads to some rom-com hijinks in which the entire wedding cake is toppled over.
Great. I was oh my god.
Yeah. And falls.
Giant cake
falls on top of them. Oh boy.
They're writhing around on the floor.
Yeah. And of course, because it's a royal prince and the son of the president, obviously this causes a whole scandal. Yeah. Of course, it's in the tabloids, it's all over the place. And so because the president, so this is basically a world in which I will give Casey McQuiston wrote this novel and just retconned the entire Trump administration by doing so, because I think the way that they make it sound is that basically Ellen Claremont, who's the president in the novel, was elected right after the Obamas, basically. She was elected right after Obama left office, and I was she
was the candidate we needed.
Yeah, that would have been a great follow-up, actually. Yeah. The first female president. That would have been great. Anyway, that's not what we wound up with, but I appreciate that the author was yeah, you know what? I don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So she's in the middle of her first term and awaiting the next election, which is very coming up within the next year, to see whether or not she'll be reelected. So obviously they have a whole bunch of work that they're doing, a whole bunch of campaigning that they're focusing on, and Alex really wants to be a part of it, but they tend to push him off to the side a little bit more and not really let him get that involved in things, partially because it does seem there are times where he doesn't really seem he takes that much very seriously, but he is legitimately interested in participating in all of this. This is the first major change that I noticed. For anybody who's read the book, you'll know there's no June in this movie. Which is interesting, because I was wow, June's
you were very disappointed.
I was no, June. Well, there's a whole thing. So the way that the friend group works in the novel, Alex and his older sister June are friends with Nora, who is, I believe, actually technically in the book, the daughter of the vice president.
They don't actually explain who she is though in the
movie.
They
say it's in passing. It's in passing. They say she's the granddaughter of the vice president. Literally, it's a one line, a throwaway line in the film that they say it. I heard it in one newscast, and I was okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And the three of them make up the little White House three, and the press loves them because of course it's all of the kids of the people who are in charge of the country, basically. Yeah. But there's no June in this, so they seem to try to give Nora some of June's qualities and sort of how she's around so much in terms of listening to Alex and letting him lean on her and things like that, but I don't know, if you roll these into one character, they also gave her no screen time at all. She's in 3 scenes in the entire film.
Yeah, she has a couple of quirky lines, and then she's not there. It really is very much focused on Alex and Henry, which I understand. I appreciate that. But I just felt it kind of seemed that in reality they would need a lot more friends and people to rely on in this kind of situation, and they just kind of cut them all out.
Yeah, they were no, it's fine, we don't have any friends, and you're that's
we
weird.
Don't have a support group.
No, that's it. So so that's the first thing. There's no June, and after the debacle at the wedding, Alex is given this little PR mission basically to like smooth things over with the prince and with seemingly like the public in the UK, I guess, even though I'm like, they're making it seem like it's affecting their trade deal. And I'm like, it's cake at a wedding. Like
Their trade deal. I totally missed that. It's like, what is this? Like the Victorian era?
Yeah, it's very strange. They like say something about it, and I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like,
What are
"Why?
you talking
Why would
about?"
knocking over a cake at a wedding have anything to do with the political landscape?"
But the trade.
I don't know.
landscape.
I remember there being a line about that, and I was like, "I'm confused." Anyway, so he's given this assignment by Zara, who's like basically the president's chief of staff,
Who's played by the woman who was in Sex
Life. Which is its own thing. We could make entire episodes about that fucking show.
I quite like that show personally.
I only watched the first season. It was so much to take.
Oh yeah, there's like more in the second season.
Oh, I can only imagine. Anyway, so yeah, Zara. I think that Zara, like as far as the side characters are concerned, is probably the closest to what I would have imagined that character to be like in a movie.
Well, she did a great job. Like she was like one of the most like memorable characters.
Yes.
Like she was funny, she was good
Yeah.
at what she was doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. So she sends him on basically like that's it, like a PR mission back to London, where he and Henry get to have like more banter of just like, you're annoying.
I know there's so much of that back and forth.
Yeah, that's it. So they do that a little bit. They go and visit a hospital with a bunch of sick kids, and there's like a noise that sounds like gunshots at one point, and of course we have more like rom-com tropey moments where they're shoved into a small space together and they're like half on top of each other and they're like, get off me, you get off me, meow, meow, meow.
That's exactly how it went down.
And then of course, like, Alex reveals that that's it. Basically the first time that he met Henry, Henry was very sort of like standoffish and flippant towards him. And Henry admits that this part of this is because he never really liked speaking to anyone at the time because his father had recently passed away, like maybe a few months before all of this was happening. So he was like, I was kind of a shit to everyone, but obviously it was not cool. So,
I felt like that was just such a non-conflicty conflict.
I know.
I feel like someone who is Alex, who's like the president's son, would not care this much about like an interaction that was not even that insulting like that many years ago. Like you just let it like roll off you.
Yeah, you probably, I don't even think you would care that much.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so of course they get to have like their little moments where they're like, I guess, forming a friendship, quote unquote, or starting to act a little bit more civil towards each other.
Montage of them texting.
Yes,
after.
that's it, because Alex comes back to the States and then he gets like a message from someone. It turns out it's Henry, and then they start talking just about all kinds of stuff. They start getting to know each other. They're texting back and forth about things. They speak on the phone a little bit and stuff, and start to form like more of a relationship with each other. And all of this is leading up to what will lead up to basically is Alex's New Year's Eve party that he always has, where he's like, well, you're supposed to, come to my New Year's Eve party because it's, of course, according to the tabloids, we're best friends. So, you need to come and you need to, like, make an appearance and make it look like you and I are actually, like, close and everything like that. And they have legitimately been getting close because they're talking all the time.
As per the montage.
Yes. I will shoehorn in that technically you would have read this, I guess, earlier in the book, but there is like a character that is technically replaced by another character in the film, and it creates so much less conflict.
In the movie or in the book?
In the movie. It creates so much less conflict in the movie to have it be this character and not a different one.
Miguel guy?
Yeah, so in the film, we've seen a couple of times that obviously Alex isn't like entirely sure or hasn't really questioned his sexuality, I don't think, that much
He
before.
just kind of goes with the flow.
He's kind of gone with, that's it. He goes with the flow, basically. And he has had like minor hookups with a couple of different guys. One of them is this political reporter named Miguel, who...
And, like, reporter used very loosely here.
Well, he has, like, a blog that's really popular. Yeah. Anyway, who is a little too thirsty. Like, calm down. Because every time he sees him, he looks like he's, like, licking his lips. And you're like, can you relax?
Like, it's as if he were, like, a baboon, like, showing his bum off.
Yeah, that's the reason. And he's like, hey, he's always insinuating, like, hey, should we go somewhere and fuck, basically. Yeah. And you're like, all right, calm down. Like, you made out one time. Relax. Too thirsty.
Too thirsty.
Anyway, but in the novel, there is no other pseudo love interest. The character that exists in the novel, he's a congressman. His name is Raphael Luna. He's older than Alex. He's like in his late 30s, and Alex really looks up to him because he's a openly gay Latinx congressman who really works a lot for like working class communities and smaller communities and more disenfranchised communities.
That would be more believable based on his character.
There winds up being this really big, I'll talk about it a bit later there, but there winds up being this really big conflict that occurs later on in the course of the story that Raphael is involved in, and it's so much... There's so much more to it, I guess. So, because basically all we're getting right now is a really thirsty reporter. And you're like, where is this going to go? What will that mean later?
Well, I mean, you can pretty much tell that he's going to be the one who's like, scandal.
Yeah, of course. So, at New Year's Eve, Henry shows up for the party. They're having an okay time, but he seems uncomfortable for like large portions of it. And that's also because it's like a big fancy party with a whole bunch of young people running around all over the place and a whole bunch of girls throwing themselves at Alex because he's young and hot and the president's son. So
fantastic
obviously,
eyelashes.
Oh my God. Guys, he's played by, what's his name? Taylor Zakar Perez, I think, is the actor who plays Alex. He has the most beautiful fucking eyelashes I have ever seen in my life. They're fabulous.
They are fabulous. He's got great hands.
I had a, oh God, you and your hands. I had a, I forget where this came from. I had a boyfriend years ago who had really, really long eyelashes, very much like that. And it was a friend of ours, and I forget who it was, but she said, and I guess she's correct if you think about it, she was like, yeah, you've got these really long eyelashes like a cow's eyelashes because cows have these really, really long eyelashes. And so now every time I think about it in my head, I'm always like, oh God, it's like cow eyelashes.
Cow eyelashes. I love it.
Yep. So anyway, Alex and his beautiful fucking eyelashes is noticing that Henry is acting strangely, sort of, and uncomfortable with the whole situation after the countdown to midnight happens. That's it. Everybody's drunk. Everybody's having a good time. And
It's a
party. And a couple of random girls come up and kiss Alex, of course, like after they count down from 10, right? They do a Happy New Year kiss, whatever. And Henry gets visibly upset and leaves the party. And he's like, okay, what the fuck? So he follows him outside. And they have this whole conversation, where Henry, of course, can't express himself correctly. So instead of doing so, he kisses Alex, like very sort of unexpectedly.
And Alex says later on that it made him know the difference between rugby and football.
Yes, he was like, what was it? He grabbed my hair in a way that made me realize the difference between rugby and football, and great. I laughed.
It was great.
That was a really funny line.
It was a good line.
That let me chuckle. Anyway, so they have a kiss, and then of course Henry immediately takes off without another word,
and then just doesn't talk to him. Like then there's a whole montage and then of Alex like messaging him like in January, February, and like he keeps messaging him and he's just ignoring him, and it's just not a nice thing to do.
No. So there's a very large political dinner that happens that Henry's attending, along with obviously the president. Alex would have been going as well, and the UK Prime Minister also. So at that event, that's sort of where he's like, okay, I need to talk to him. We need to clear the air. So that's where he has that whole thing. So he has his, I forget the character's name, but his really funny Secret Service agent. She's hilarious.
Oh, she's so good.
She's really good.
Yeah.
He's like, I need to speak to him privately. Yeah. So she gets them into like one of the
red room.
Yeah. Can somebody confirm to me, is there a red room in the White House that I don't know anything about American history or what the White House looks like really other than the outside of it and the Oval Office, which is in every political show and film ever.
I don't know. Maybe there is like a sexy red room.
Maybe there is a red room, and we just don't know anything. We're Canadian,
I'm just thinking of, like 50 Shades of Grey red room, like
red room of pain. It's my playroom. What, like with your Xbox?
Like with your Xbox and stuff. God, that book was terrible.
So stupid. Oh, God. We're digressing. Anyway, so Henry comes into the Red Room, and of course, like, because this is a rom-com, we're not going to have like a whole conversation. They immediately start making out. Which the Secret Service agent interrupts, and she's like, "Oh God, I don't want to be part of this."
She's like, "Oh nope."
She's like, "Oh God," and she spins around and leaves the room, which I don't blame her
I don't
for.
blame her
Because you're like, "Oh, I don't want to know. I don't
wanna
plausible
deal with
deniability.
this.
I don't
Yeah.
want to know that there is a member of the royal family and the first son are making out." Like, no, thank you.
No, this is too much. Yeah.
So basically, they have like this little funny moment which again is a very like rom-com-y thing, where Alex is like, at like midnight, you're gonna come upstairs to my room on the second floor, and I'm gonna do really dirty things to you. And Henry's like, "Oh, okay," which is pretty much what happens. You know, he goes up there and they do what they do.
Side note, I did not enjoy Henry as a character. Like, I think it's because the actor was in Purple Hearts and he didn't have this like weird tuft of blonde
Remember
hair.
that, guys? We talked about that movie a while
Talked
ago.
about Purple Hearts a while ago. I didn't have any beef with him when he was in Purple Hearts. I thought he was quite cute and he did a good job
Yeah,
as an army private or whatever. But in this one, he's got this big tuft of blonde hair that made him look like Macaulay Culkin if he had never gone off the deep end.
Halfway through the movie, she's like, she's like, I'm looking at his face, and it's like he looks like Macaulay Culkin if Macaulay Culkin looked the way he was supposed to right now. And I was like, oh,
It's like if Richie Rich had grown up.
Yeah,
That is what what we thought he was going to look like.
yeah,
when
what
he was a
he
kid.
probably should have looked like.
No
in his
shade, no
20s.
tea there, Macaulay.
No, you're fine. You're okay.
You're doing great, sweetie.
Shereen.
Well, he's off the drugs.
Probably.
I
I
think.
don't know. I don't know.
I mean, he's got a kid now and stuff.
Oh, good
Yeah,
for him.
I know.
I hope he's doing okay.
I think so. Like, but anyway.
Anyway.
Digress.
Yeah, so of course she told me this, and now I can't get it out of my head.
It's true. He looks exactly like him.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess. I see it. I hope you all see it too now. If you watch the movie, I want someone else to like tell me if they see it as well. Anyway, so, you know, that's it. So they fool around, and then they're like, I think we should continue doing this because obviously we're having a good time with it. So we get like another little montage of kind of like a couple of different instances in which they are meeting up for XYZ reason, where it's like, oh, I'm going to this like charity polo match, and then you're going to come to this kind of thing. And they're able to sneak away for a few minutes at a time to kind of like, that's it, actually fool around a bit.
Yep.
This leads to the first night where they actually have sex.
Yep.
And I kind of appreciate that there was like a conversation had about it, like, you know, because like, okay, like that's it, Alex's character is just coming to the realization that he's bisexual, and he's never had sex, like had
all the way.
yeah,
with
that's it,
him.
had like penetrative sex, I should say, with a man before. So he's like, I don't like, who's gonna do what? Like,
Who does what? I don't actually know.
I've never done this before, and I was like, I mean, I think it's actually good that this bit of dialogue is in the film so that we don't think
realistic.
that everyone just knows what to do.
Gentlemen, get in position. You know where you go. Like,
can you imagine?
Yeah. Well, it's true though. I mean,
God, like even think about yourself. Like no matter what your sexual orientation is, think about yourself when you were younger and you had sex for the first time. Like, yeah, you understood the mechanics of it, but like actually doing it, you're like, what the hell do I do?
awkward. Like,
Oh, it's
you're
so.
like, oh man.
I've never met anybody who's told me that their first time wasn't awkward as fuck. Like, it's so uncomfortable. Afterwards, you're like, oh, was that it then? Like that's
I'm gonna go.
Yeah, you're like,
nice knowing you.
what do we do now? Like, I don't know. Everybody's uncomfortable. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to participate in what's happening.
I'll just stand over here and you show me what we should be doing. No, but it was good. It was like a good exchange. It kind of like humanized them a little bit. And yeah. And this movie was rated R. And like ahead of time, Meaghan and I were very curious to see.
We were
if
like,
it was,
why?
like,
Why is it rated
because
R?
there's like really explicit sex scenes, or is it because it's like two men? I would say a little column A, a little column B. Like, I wouldn't say that they're very like obvious sex scenes, but like more than they normally do. I guess,
yeah, to an extent, yes. But it's true that I do think that there's definitely an element in there because this is a like a gay romance specifically, and there are two men involved. I do think that has a lot to do with
definitely.
it. as well.
Yep.
So, so of course, that's it. We've kind of, now that this has happened between the two of them, they kind of have to figure out like how they're going to make this work, like how they're going to do this. And this does lead to a really funny scene again with Zara, because she's funny.
Oh, she's hilarious.
Where that's it, of course, since the president's on the road to re-election and campaigning, Alex has been putting forth the idea of flipping Texas from red to blue.
Side note, the president is meant to be from Texas, but her accent, I don't know. If there are any Texans listening, can you please tell me if her accent sounds like a Texan accent to you? Because it sounds more like Georgia.
Like Georgia or like Louisiana or something.
Something a little, just a lot more deep south.
Yeah, it was so very it was very like lilty. It wasn't like twangy the way that I would expect a Texas accent to sound. I don't even know how else to describe it. And like, we're not experts. I don't know. I've never been to Texas, so I could be talking out of my ass right now. I have no idea.
That's what I'm saying. If somebody's listening, can you please tell us?
I would love it if somebody would clarify specifically so that we know. So basically Alex goes off to Texas. Also this film and the story in general posits a magical world in which Texas becomes a democratic state, which is a really interesting idea.
That magical world where Trump didn't win that first time, and then
and then maybe things got a little bit better, a little bit more quickly. I don't know. Anyway, so Alex has gone off to Texas to help with campaigning and to do all kinds of things in his home state because they're from Texas. And Henry winds up going to visit him while he's there. And they, again, that's it, hook up in a hotel. And then the next morning, Zara shows up because, Alex has like back-to-back like interviews and appearances and all kinds of stuff right now. And Henry tries to hide in the closet, and which also that's funny.
I just got it. Yeah.
Which also, so of course she, comes in, she's looking around, of course she's like, I can hear someone else in here. Where is she? And of course she opens.
She's like worried that this person hasn't signed
an
NDA.
She's like, you haven't told anyone about her. I'm sure she hasn't signed a fucking NDA. So like, God knows if she's in here with her phone, she could be transmitting like information to other people because she's doing her job.
Of course.
So she hears a noise, opens the closet, and of course Henry's in there, and she's like, what the fuck?
It's a great moment. She's like, oh my God.
She's like hyperventilating. Anyway, so she has like this whole funny thing where she's like, we're going off to do these interviews. You better be ready in like 5 minutes. And if any reporters catch you leaving this place, I will Brexit your head from your body.
There's some pretty good lines in this movie.
Most of them are hers, honestly.
It's true.
Anyway, the next time that they decide to get together, again, it's just like there's like a lot of little interspersed things too of just like, Henry dealing with his family and being bored, and Alex like doing more campaigning stuff, but it's not really like
key to the plot.
Not as it is much more in the book, I find, but in the film it was like whatever. This is just like stuff to take up screen time, which you could have done with some of this other conflict, guys. I think it would have been good to include some of it. So, Labor Day weekend comes up, and Alex invites Henry out to Texas to the vacation home that they have with his dad. And he's also come out to his mom at this point, which is nice.
Fine.
Oh, she doesn't care. She does not care.
She just starts talking about being safe with sex.
Oh my God, she's so cute. Where she's like, like
she's
if you're
so like up to date on how to have safe.
I know, safe, like that's it, like safe, like gay sex. Basically, she's so funny about it. She's just there, and she's like, we can get you on Truvada, and then if if you're
HPV,
if you're bottoming, you're gonna need the HPV vaccine. And I'm like, wow, she's really knowledgeable about this. Good for her. And he's like, Jesus Christ, Mom. So they have like that awkward moment that no one wants to have with their parents ever. And she even makes like a cute comment where she's like, well, we didn't cover this stuff when I gave you the talk, which is my fault for being short-sighted about that. And I was like, that's a really nice thing for a mom to say. So they all head out with Nora and Percy, who's Henry's best friend, who also much more fun character in the book. He's fun. He's really quirky. In the book, he actually has a romance with June. the sister.
Well, don't they try and make it seem like he likes Nora? But
they do, but they never. You never see them together on screen. Yeah. They don't do anything with it. It's meh. Like it just it means nothing. It goes nowhere. But in the book, they actually do have like some back and forth, and it's more fun anyway.
Again, they cut a lot of like the side characters, which again makes sense for time's sake, but sucks that there weren't like more.
Yeah, it's almost like you wanted this to be like a 3-part miniseries or something, just to give them the opportunity to do this.
Enjoy the characters.
Yeah. So they all go out to Texas. They go to a karaoke bar and have like a fun night with that.
Yeah, because nobody would recognize the prince in a karaoke bar.
The fucking Prince of England at this karaoke bar. It's Texas, not Tibet. Like.
Even in Tibet, they would recognize the prince.
Quite possibly, yes.
Get on Twitter.
Anyway, so, and he does come out to his dad, so basically the whole contrast of it, right, is that Alex's parents are, like, supportive about all of this, and it doesn't bother them, whereas, of course, the royal family, on the other hand, like, oof, no.
We need Ed.
Yes, and then the first major conflict comes when Alex starts talking about, after his mom's reelected, he won't be as busy with all of this stuff going on. They'll be able to be out together in public. It won't matter. And Henry's like, yeah, it will. Like, what? Also, I don't know where Alex gets that idea. I'm like, this has nothing to do with your mom's reelection. This has everything to do with the fucking English royal family and how they're going to react to something like this.
I don't know. Maybe, like, Henry just didn't talk about the expectations or implications as well as he should have.
I don't think he does. Like, he doesn't really, because I think in his head, like, it's understood. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's just what it is. It's never going to happen. So of course, when this conversation comes up, Henry gets very uncomfortable and winds up leaving early. And then again, the ghosting happens. He's really good at just like not answering his phone. And
yeah, that would annoy me if I were Alex.
Yeah,
I'd be like, Kate, like,
so a whole week goes by with nothing, and then Nora's the one who suggests, she's like, just go to England. She's like, you need to go talk to him, obviously. So just go to England, go sort this out. So he does. He shows up at Kensington Palace in the middle of the night. They have a little bit of an argument. A little bit.
It's hardly an argument.
It's like a toothless argument. But anyway. And then they sneak into the V&A museum together. Which again is another thing, like, because in the book, Henry has this whole thing where he like talks about the fact that he used to go to the V&A all the time with his dad. And it's like a thing because his dad passed away and stuff. And you're like, okay, yeah, like there's more to it than that. I mean, like all of Henry's backstory is mostly non-existent in the film in terms of like, his dad passed away and he was really upset about it. In the book, his dad was a famous film actor who played James Bond back in the day. I would assume, I guess, based on like timelines, it sounds, because they were like, it was a while ago. So it sounds like his dad was probably like Pierce Brosnan era James Bond. Like that
would make sense.
Time
with
span,
the age and stuff.
Yeah, like time span basically. And then he married his mom, who is the daughter of the king in this case. It's the queen in the book. So yeah,
yeah. We don't see her at all. In this,
she exists in the book, and she does have like a bit of a pivotal role in like the last act of the book. So I was like, but she doesn't exist at all in the movie, and I was like, okay.
Again, they killed all the female characters.
I know, and all the female characters who actually do something as well, including even the queen. I was like, really? You couldn't have just kept it a queen?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, they did have Stephen Fry as the king. I'm not mad about it.
No, I'm fine. I love Stephen Fry, but I'm like, but he was also only in one scene, so I was like, what was the point of this? Yeah. Anyway. So, they decide that they're going to find a way to make this work, and that they really do love each other, and they're gonna, that's it, try to push through this. What happens after Alex takes off is that we're basically within a few days, what we find out is that all of the emails that they've had back and forth between the two of them, where they've talked about all kinds of personal stuff, flirted a lot, spoken like overtly sexually to each other as well, obviously, because again, these are private emails between two consenting adults.
So you think they were private.
Are all fucking leaked to the press, which is terrible, along with pictures of them like at the museum and stuff like that, obviously being like very intimate with one another. Yeah. So this is all leaked, and that's it. What's created in the movie is that this sort of like jilted reporter, I guess, Miguel, hacked all of the emails, found this stuff, posted it, and wrote like this really intense like article about it on his stupid website that people seem to like, and that made it a whole thing. Now, here's the situation in the book, because I feel like I have to explain this properly.
I'm looking forward to hear what it was.
So in the book, the congressman Rafael Luna, it's found out that despite the fact that he's like a Democratic congressman and is very, open, like, is obviously a full supporter of like LGBTQ rights and like racial rights and all kinds of things like this. He's decided to partner and run with the political opponent to the current president, like the Republican opponent of the current president. And like, this is like a huge betrayal for Alex's family because they're like really close to this guy and they're like, what the fuck? And he's like running with the opposition and they're like, since when? Like, why is that happening? So that's a whole thing. Alex is super pissed at him and they have like a couple of like arguments about it where he like confronts him and he's like, what the hell's the matter with you? And then, but okay, what winds up happening in the book is that where in the movie, there's no consequences for any of the stuff being hacked. There's nothing. In the book, it's then leaked to the press afterwards that it's the opposition there, Senator Richmond or whatever his name is. It's discovered that they were the ones who hacked the emails and did all of this, and their reputation is ruined because of this, or at least to an extent, or at least it's not ruined, but like it's discovered that they were the ones who did this in the first place. And it's discovered because Raphael went in there to find out what they were doing, and he's the one who leaked to the press that the hack came from Richmond's office.
See, that would have been a way juicier plot point.
Yes, so then they're able, he and Alex are able to like make up as friends and everything like that later on as well. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a lot more to the conflict. Whereas in this, it's like, oh, the emails are leaked. Oh, that's too bad. And then Alex gives like a really nice speech about like our privacy should have been ours. We love each other, and that should be our business.
Which I thought was really odd considering that we're dealing with a prince on the other side, and like the palace would have been like, oh, I don't fucking think so. Like,
you're definitely not releasing a statement like that.
Yeah, like he would have had to consult with what's his face first.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So he goes, he goes to England because Henry's basically been like secluded in the house. He goes to England, and then the king asks to speak to both of them. And of course the king, is directing palace publicity to just simply say that this is all false information. It's not accurate, blah, blah, blah. Even though I'm like, Alex has literally confirmed it in a press conference, but okay. Yeah. But this is when Henry's like, no, he's like, this is the truth and we shouldn't be hiding anything like this. I'm allowed to have my own life. I'm allowed to be happy. I'm allowed to do what I want. And of course the king is like, oh no, we can't do that with no good reason for it. We just can't do that because it's not the status quo. We have to maintain what's already here. Yeah. And all of this sort of culminates in his sister Beatrice, or B, also a character that's fully cut down in the movie.
Oh, yeah. She has like 3 lines.
She has like no screen time at all in the book. they talk about her, like her backstory. Is that, again, back when their dad had died, Henry had kind of gone on into like, a depressive state of sorts. And she was also really struggling. And she struggled with a really severe cocaine addiction, which was also found out by the press. And she was dragged by them. They used to call her like the powder princess. And stuff like in all the tabloids and everything. And I was like, B has no fucking backstory in this either. And I don't know why. Anyway.
Again, I think this would have been better as like a 3 or 4 part miniseries. Like we would have really got to know the characters. We would have loved them.
Yeah, it would have given us an opportunity to really see everyone.
And we could have really fallen in love with the 2 main characters too, which I found was a little lacking. Like no shade, no tea, Amazon, but you kind of dragged out The Summer I Turned Pretty, like...
Yeah,
for all that it could give,
but you're not willing to do it with this. This one has to be like a 2-hour film, and not like, I know it's weird. It's really strange. Anyway, so they stand up together basically against the king, and of course are also basically informed at the same time that people are supportive of them, that the public in general.
Of course
are supportive of them.
Of course.
And that it's fine.
2023.
Yeah, I fucking hope so, although...
Love is love.
Love is love, guys. Literally, who cares? Oh, God.
So many people.
Yeah, and anyway, Ellen wins the election because they managed to sway Texas, which, again, we live in a fantasy world, apparently, where Texas is now a blue state, so that's that's something.
That's nice.
That's nice, yeah. And and then that's basically they get their little happily ever after right after she wins. That's pretty much like the end of the movie. They just go off. They do their little like bike ride together to his house in Austin, which is technically that is the way that the book ends, I should say, is that they do that. They go riding through the streets, and they go and they visit the house. But yeah, I don't know. It was just, that's it. It was so fast, and I was like, I read it recently, so I think I'm like extra disappointed because I was like, oh, where are all the characters? Where's all the screen time for these people?
Yeah, I just felt like there was a lot of opportunity for this where like we could have really fallen in love with the characters, but they really cut it short.
Yeah, that's it. And it was everyone was so much like less quirky. It was just like very, very like beige.
Well, it's because they had to get through the plot, didn't they?
Yeah, that's the problem, right? But again, even then they cut down the plot in a way that I was like, okay, you could have kept this like a lot more interesting. There could have been a lot more going on that way. So I just wish that they had stuck to that a little bit more.
Totes.
Yeah. Anyway, have you guys checked out Red, White, and Royal Blue? If you have, you can let us know over on Instagram and Threads at fullybookedca. And you can also check out our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/bookwaswaybetter. We're going to be back at you next week with another rom-com topic before the end of the month. But until then, guys, keep on reading.
Thanks, everyone.